Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, The College Process. Once again, I'm Ed from Principia Prep, and today, like every Friday, we're going to be going through all the questions you guys leave here on the channel, and I'll be answering all the questions you guys have here. Once again, if this is the first time you're watching any of our videos here, any of the videos here on the channel, you guys leave any questions down on the comment section down below. I do every Friday take those questions, answer them in video format like this right here, and then put them back on YouTube so that way everyone has detailed answers to all of their questions. That being said, let's jump right into the first question here. First question here, hello, thank you, first time college parents here. Quite daunting. Quick question on the asset verification. The line cell where it says parents' payments to tax deferred pensions and savings, what line is that in the W-2? That's line 12. So on your W-2, on line 12, it's going to indicate any money you're putting into retirement. It has a couple of things in there, but specifically line 12 itself actually shows any money you put into any retirement accounts for that company you work at, typically 403Bs or 401Ks. Okay. Let's go to the next question here. And then, of course, from 9 days ago, this question right here. Can a student use his or her own income or lack of income to qualify for more financial aid if the student is married out of the country and spouse isn't present in the United States? Well, the way it works is if you're married and you're the student, so the student's going in and they're married, then you count both spouses' information. So at that point in time, then if the student is essentially the person who's married, then their parents' information doesn't count. So you're only counting two people that are married. Now, by the way, whether they're in the country or out of the country, in the world of financial aid doesn't matter. If they are married and are still married at the point in time where you're actually filing this form, you count both their income. Even if one parent, let's say, is in Europe and the one parent's in America or vice versa, you still count the information if they're still filing together and they're still married, as far as all their income and assets together. Now, if they're separated, different situation, then you only count one, i.e. the student's information only. And next question here from 8 days ago from Sarah. And if your family's adjusted gross income is over $100,000, what is the merit situation at Rutgers? Do they give decent merit aid to reduce costs for incoming students, or should we focus more on private schools with good endowments that provide good merit? I guess you mean good need-based aid and merit, I guess here. I think Clark in Worcester gives 50% to most students. P.S. OCD Queen, here again, your website misspelled counseling on the homepage. Oh, thank you for that. I didn't know that. I actually haven't updated the homepage or the website, to be honest with you, in I'm not gonna lie, like 7 to 8 years. We never used the web page, to be honest with you. We only established it, I think, like 15 years ago because of the fact that everyone had a website. But to be honest with you, I don't think most of my clients, most people I help out, ever even go to our website, to be honest with you. It's not that good. It should be updated, I agree. And having a misspelling on there obviously is not good either. But I will talk to our web guy. He'll hopefully take care of that. But once again, our website has not been updated in close to a decade, to be honest with you. I'm surprised people even go on there, to be honest with you. Most of the people I deal with are usually face-to-face through presentations, consultations, referrals, or through the high schools that we work with. But thank you for that. I will be updating that. Now answer your question. Merit, as far as merit aid comes for Rutgers, it's dependent upon the school in which you're going to Rutgers at. And let me give you an example. If you're looking at Rutgers Art and Science program, that is a lot easier to get into. It's also a lot easier to get merit aid scholarship money, depending on test scores, i.e. SAT, ACTs, as well as GPA. I have seen at that level, Art and Science, if you're over a 1,300, typically 1,350 SAT or above, you're going to get a decent amount of merit aid scholarship money to obviously reduce the price, which is beneficial because merit aid is consistent across all 4 years, as long as your student typically maintains a B average and is going full time. So yes, on the merit side, Rutgers is pretty good. Now on the private school side, it depends on your income situation. If you're looking at from perspective of if you're making, let's say, adjusted gross income $100,001, obviously Rutgers is out of the mix for need-based because you're out of the Scarlet Guarantee or the Garden Guarantee programs to get any grant money to reduce the tuition. However, if you're at the $101,000 mark, if you're looking at a private school, like a school like you mentioned here, Clark, or really any of the Ivies, any of the liberal arts schools, any of the schools that provide 100% need met, etc., these schools will typically at the 100,000 mark, not counting assets, of course, will only cost you about 20 grand. So if you're looking at a comparison, Rutgers versus a private school, and we're making $101,000, then theoretically, Rutgers is going to be twice the cost than it would be for the private school. So it depends on your situation. But the way I look at it is, if you have a high achieving student academically, Rutgers is going to step up with scholarship money. If our income is much higher than the $101, obviously that increases the cost of the private school. And at some point, typically around the 200 mark, the cost of Rutgers full all in versus a private school giving you money at the $200,000 income or above. At that level, 200 starting off, Rutgers actually becomes a cheaper starting rate, which means the private school, even though they could be giving you tens of thousands of dollars, is not going to be cheaper than Rutgers. To give an example, Rutgers right now is around $38,000, depending on your program, all in. So 38. If you're making 200,000 at a private school, they want you to pay 40. So right there at the 200 mark, the private school no longer is an affordable option compared to Rutgers' situation. So it all depends on the numbers, but the lower your income, the more likely the private school, the higher their income, the more likely Rutgers, especially if you're talking about having good academics, to be able to get yourself a scholarship. Next question here coming in from Rich here. Thank you for the video. Does the adjusted gross for Tier 3 apply to juniors and seniors attending Rutgers? I guess you're talking about the Scarlet Guarantee. Scarlet Guarantee is only good if you're making $100,000 or below for the 3 different tiers of getting grant money reduction. But once you get to $101, there are no more grants coming in from Rutgers specifically through the Scarlet Guarantee program. However, once you reach the 3rd and 4th year of college, junior and senior, Scarlet Guarantee doesn't go into them. What goes into the 3rd and 4th tier is the Garden Guarantee through the state of New Jersey, which I talk about within the video, which I talk about at the tail end of the video here, the Rutgers tuition increase. So if you watch the whole video all the way to the end, roughly around 3 minutes left in the video, I talk about New Jersey's Garden Guarantee program started by Governor Murphy. Now, the way the program works is for juniors and seniors, if your adjusted gross is under $80,000, you guys are eligible for a tuition discount. So if you watch the video, I explain that at the end of the video. So yes, junior and senior year, there are scholarships, there are grant monies available to reduce the cost from the state of New Jersey if you're a state resident of New Jersey and you went to Rutgers in years 3 and 4, but the income level is $80,000 or below requirement. And that being said, let's go on to the next question here, coming in from 5 days ago. When taking out a private loan and being a cosigner and electing to pay back while in school, is it normal or typical that only interest is being paid? We're approved for a loan and elected a 7-year repayment back term, but in reality, it's 12 years. The first 5 years is interest only. The next 7 years is, I guess, principal and interest. This is how it's normally done all private loans. Thank you, private lenders. The way it works is this. It depends on the lenders. Most lenders will provide 10, 15, 20-year repayment structures per se when it comes to private lenders, as well as the state lenders as well. Now, when it comes to the private lenders, some of them have individual, unique aspects of repaying stuff back. Some will say to you, instead of paying principal and interest or interest itself, pay us 25 or 50 bucks a month. Other ones will say, instead of doing 10, 15, 20, we'll give you 7-year options, 12-year options, etc. So every loan company is different, but the standard, I would say, for all of them across the board is typically 10-year standard repayment, principal and interest starting immediately, 15-year paying interest only while the student's in school. Then when the student graduates, you start paying principal and interest 6 months after. And then the third option that they all have is you don't pay anything at all until 6 months after the student graduates. So having a 12-year repayment isn't completely unique in the sense that it's not below the 10-year mark that almost everyone starts at. But if it does work for you financially, I would go with it. But the way it works is if you want to overpay as well, let's say you're only paying the interest while the student's in school for those 4 years while they're there, you can always send more. There's no pre-penalty for any of these lenders, by the way. So if you want to send more, like if you want to start the principal and interest, let's say a year or 2 into this, or even the beginning to see what's going to be like paying that amount as far as your financial situation, I would definitely give it a shot, knowing that you don't have to keep doing that every month. The next month, if you don't feel comfortable, you can always reduce it down to just the interest. But I do like the idea of you taking the interest paying loan, because one of the biggest issues I see from families when it comes to student loans, especially when they graduate, if they haven't made any payments at all, interest, principal, none whatsoever, then you get that first bill and you paid for 6 or 7 months and you don't see the principal dropping, you just see the interest dropping that you didn't pay before. That's when a lot of families get discouraged. So for me, I do like the idea of paying the interest while they're in school, and also overpaying if you can to help reduce the principal before the principal and interest payment come into the mix. And next question here from 4 days ago. Wow, looks like we have a lot of questions here. Let me read some of it here and I'll answer as much as I can. Remember, when you guys get really detailed or ask me a lot of questions, I usually can't answer your question. Not because I don't know the answer, but because I don't have all the information. Like I don't know your income, I don't know the college list, I don't know your tax level as far as your bracket, I don't know where you live, I don't know what you're applying for, I don't know if there's scholarship money involved, I don't know how much you have in savings, checking, 529 plans. So I see this question has a lot of questions specifically about financials in here. I'm going to try to answer as well as I can, but unless I know all your numbers and the school list and your taxes as well, this is virtually going to be just a broad-based answer. So hopefully this helps you. Hi, Ed. Really appreciate all the great videos and information. I wanted to see if I had this thought process right. We now recently find ourselves approaching the game over income level due to both parents working, have 529 plans, which hopefully will only cover 1 or 2 semesters, have 529 plans for the second child, I guess, as well. They will only be in college for 1 year, so just 1 year of overlap, so not much overlap help there. Have a decent amount in assets, but selling stocks, funds would result in capital gains, which obviously increases your income, so more loss of financial aid assistance. I understand that. What is the general thought process for paying for college in this scenario? Leave retirement loan, but reduce retirement contributions, save more money, delete 529 plans. Let me see here, take out loans. Okay, so I guess most of your questions I can kind of answer, but I can't completely answer, unfortunately, because I don't know anything about you financially, to be honest with you. The way it works is this. I typically like to go to pay with the 529 plan right off the bat, especially with interest rates being as high as they are now. Before, like a year or two ago, when we were getting interest rates at 1 or 2% and I can borrow at 1 or 2%, then obviously I was holding off on the 529, leaving it alone, because who wouldn't want to borrow at 1 or 2%? Historically, that's never happened. So that allowed you to basically be at 70 to 80% what historically student loans were, which are 5 to 7% starting off rate. So you were super low. Leave the 520 loan alone for the last 2 years. But now we're going back to normalcy. So I would look to use the 529 monies first, hoping that in the next year or two, interest rates will come back down to lower levels, maybe getting that 4 or 5%, probably not going to get in the threes anymore, but a low 4, a low 5 interest rate would be a great thing to look at, especially years 2, 3, 4. So right now I'm looking at 529s first. Then I'm looking at paying with the loans next. And of course, a combination of those things being maybe a payment plan in between to kind of level off and lower the amount we have to borrow years 2, 3, and 4, etc. But hopefully that answers your question. But I like 529 first, then college loans. I'm not touching the retirement at all unless it's an emergency, and the college is not an emergency. So I would not be borrowing from my retirement for college. I would also not be borrowing from a HELOC, i.e. the house. I would only be looking at 529 student loans. Hopefully it's helpful. All right, next question here from 4 days ago. As per attorney in New Jersey, separation doesn't exist. So what can we prove? What can we provide that there is no court order when it comes to legal separation in New Jersey? This is a very good question. I've actually gotten this question a couple of times. I've actually asked a few people that I know in the industry, and I mean in the industry, I mean like in the education system, the U.S. Department of Education, the people actually work on this, as well as other financial aid directors and counselors, and no one can give me an answer, to be honest with you. Because of the fact that the new standards, the federal standards, is the problem. The federal standard takes into consideration all the states, not just one state. Or obviously here in New Jersey, this doesn't exist. The reality is they're going to want to see something. They're probably going to want to see a lawyer, maybe certified letter, or they're going to want to see something from the court indicating you guys have court dates in mind. They're going to want to see something, unfortunately, because this is something brand new. And as I mentioned before in my video, this one right here, talking about the FAFSA and all the changes, there's still more changes coming. So even though I give you guys the top 10 most important changes, there could be 10 more, 15 more. There's going to be at least 7 or 8 more changes coming because the U.S. Department of Education hasn't finalized everything. As I talk about in the video, they haven't even given us a date of when the FAFSA is opening. Most people say, yes, it's opening in December. But December when? December 1st, the 15th, or the 30th? Are we going to get an extension because it's not ready to go? Will it crash the first couple of days? By the way, it's going to crash the first couple of days, just being honest with you, because they don't have anything done yet. They're still working on this on the fly, pretty much, which is not a great way of doing this when you're dealing with tens of millions of students trying to get this form in. So for me, very likely you're going to need something from the attorney. Next question here coming in from 4 days ago. There seems to be an issue with the link for the James Russo Memorial Scholarship. Oh, sorry about that. I'm not sure how that happened. But if you just type into YouTube James Russo Memorial Scholarship, it'll bring you to the link. It'll show you the video for our scholarship program here. I will have somebody, I'll guess myself, I'll just jump on YouTube and double check the link and fix it if there's an issue. But if anybody can't get onto the James Russo Memorial Scholarship video here for our scholarship program for students going off to college, please just type into the search box for YouTube James Russo Memorial Scholarship, and it'll pop up the video for you guys to watch, how to apply for our scholarship here. Thank you so much for bringing that up. I will have it fixed. Question here coming from 3 days ago. I know this is an old video, but how do I know how much money gets used and how much is left over? I'm guessing financial aid office can answer. How will the funds be distributed and reimbursed? Question is for college loan decline. If you're asking about if we have an overage of loan funds, let's say the college costs $20,000 and we take out a loan for $25,000. If you want to know how much of that $25,000 will be refunded back to you, I would check with the school's financial aid office because every school's financial aid office has a different cost of attendance. So whatever I tell you here will be right for one school and wrong for 99% of other schools. So you need to first ask the school what their cost of attendance is. Cost of attendance takes into consideration everything: room, board, books, transportation, miscellaneous costs, all the stuff you can get refunded back. They'll be able to tell you no matter what the max loan you take out, whether you take out 25, 50, 60, 100,000, what they'll actually let you take out and what they're going to send back to the lender because it's above their cost of attendance. So financial aid office is exactly the place I'd be going. All right, next question here coming in from Courtney. My ex-husband and I are legally divorced. We have 2 kids. One started college in 24, 25. Our divorce decree states that he can claim the other, non-student, kids on the taxes every other year. Otherwise, I, the mom, claim them both. Have 50-50 custody and he pays child support. So he's the parent who provides the more financial support. We would assume that he fills the FAFSA form, but the taxes will have me claiming the student. We want him to do the FAFSA even though I have lower income because I also have significant non-retirement assets. Is this going to be a problem? Well, the way it works is this. Like I mentioned in the last question before, and as I mentioned in this video here, they're still doing this stuff. Like they're still working on this information in the sense that they just came out with a couple months ago, basically 6-9 months ago, that they're going to basically take the parent who has provided the most support. Now, the hard part here is, what does that actually mean if the parent is not claiming the student? I've also seen this. I've also asked this question of the U.S. Department of Education, so of other financial aid officers, and we haven't got an answer, to be honest with you. They're still saying we're working on it, which basically means, in my perspective, if you guys are in a divorce situation and you're swapping the kids back and forth, even though it's very likely, and I've said this in the past, I've said this for the last 2 years, they're going to take the parent who claims the student as that's the income we're going to use. The way it works here is, if mom claims a student, let's say they're claiming both students, but the person providing child support is providing 51% of support through that child support, you can technically use that as a parent. This question has been asked the U.S. Department of Education, and they have said they're not sure just yet. So for me, the way I'm looking at it is, if you guys are swapping back and forth as far as a student, and if the question on the FAFSA form indicates who provides more support rather than who's claiming the student, then I'm going to typically use the parent who has the lesser income. Unless your situation, which is unique, obviously, you have more assets. So what I would do in your situation is, I would do the school's net price calculators and figure out, if I do the FAFSA as the mom, will my assets affect us more than his income? If my assets affect us less, so our expected ability to pay, our student aid index is what's called now, if that's higher based on my situation, I'm okay with going with his higher income. But if it's the other way around, if your assets are so high in valuation that it actually increases your chances of getting less aid on your side, then I feel comfortable going with him. I know it's a little convoluted here because I don't know your entire situation. I don't know how much you mean by a lot of assets. But for me, I typically like to go with a parent with lower income. And in this scenario, I don't see a problem with you going with a parent with a lower income, as long as your assets don't affect you too much. Something in which I don't know your information for, so I can't go further than that, but hopefully that answers your question. All right, next question here coming in from 2 days ago. I completed the Parent Plus loan last year, and we'll be doing it again this year. Do I have to refill out the promissory note loan counseling every year? And the answer is yes. You do the master promissory note after you do the Parent Plus loan because it is a requirement, and you do it every single year. That's the way you do it across the board. All 4 years you're taking out loans, you'll be doing that master promissory note as long as you're taking out the Parent Plus loan. From 3 hours ago, I filled the FAFSA October 1st before the site crashed. I uploaded my taxes and did the IRS retrieval system, and then the schools asked for verification. They didn't complete the verification until February 2023, and they said they ran out of financial aid at that point. I did everything right. What should I do the next time around? Work study was already filled up, but she was eligible. Supplemental grants and financial aid was gone. What can I do this year? I guess is your question. The way it works is, I would be contacting the school literally every week. Like, I would just set a date. Like, after everything is sent in, I give them 2 weeks. Then let's say every Tuesday, basically I'm calling at, let's say, 11 o'clock or 2 o'clock. And I'm doing that consistently until I have that loan, until I have the verification done, until everything's complete. I know it's kind of a pain in the butt. You got to do it this way. But the reality is, financial aid offices are overburdened. There's not enough staff, and any of them, to be honest with you, to take on the amount of load of paperwork coming in. Now, even with them reducing the questions in the FAFSA, still not going to reduce the workload. It's actually going to make it more because there's less questions you guys are answering. So the reality is, you got to stay on top of them. I'm talking like every Tuesday or every Wednesday or every Thursday in your mind at 2 o'clock, I'm calling and finding out, are we complete? Are we complete? Are we done? Is everything in place? Will I be provided the maximum amount of aid, knowing that I am done early on? That's what you have to do, unfortunately, in this situation. And next video here is from Tom. I don't believe I've heard you mention private student loans from any banks in any of your student loan videos. Any reason for this? For example, Discover, Citizens both offer very competitive interest rates with incredibly simple application processes. Just open this up compared to Sallie Mae and Earnest. Am I missing some disadvantage of these types of loans? Well, Tom, the way it works is this. As far as the student loans go, there's basically like 30 different student loan companies out there. But the student loan video I did here, the top 5 student loans, this is actually my 5th or 6th one that I've actually done here on the channel. Every year I take the other ones off. Typically, I make them private because all the information has then basically changed. So in the past, believe it or not, the private lenders weren't the best rates to begin with. Before the pandemic, the best rates were actually the federal and state loans, because those were locked in rates that were typically a point or two starting off with lower than the private lenders. So I have talked about this in the past. I know the videos aren't up anymore because they don't make any sense. I don't want anyone to watch them and get the wrong information. But every year I basically take the old videos down because the interest rates are different, the terms are different, and everything else, the environment financially is different. So this video, when it came out, the top 3 lenders, as far as the private lenders I put on there, were the lowest rates available with the best terms, as well as the loans that provided the easiest opportunity for lower credit scores to get lower rates. When it comes to certain loans, unfortunately, whether you're talking about Discover or Citizens, so on and so forth, they do have good rates. I'm not going to say they don't, but some of these guys start at much higher rates on average. To give you an example, Tom, this is what I mean here. I pulled up Discover's average as far as interest rates and terms and everything else coming out for their loans. And if you look down here for Discover undergrad loans, the fixed rate for average student is starting at roughly 10%. That's a massive difference between, that's an obviously a big difference between the loans I talked about when I created this video close to 3 months ago now. So yes, Discover does have options for people that do have higher credit scores for better rates. So does Citizens. Citizens Discover, I think, have good rates. So does SoFi. There's a bunch of other loan companies out there. NailNet also has one as well. There's a bunch of them out there, College Apps, so on and so forth. They all have good rates, but depends on a lot of factors here. So when I come up with a list, I like to see the ones that have the lowest interest rates, the availability for the lowest interest rates for the most amount of people, depending on credit score, and the ones that have the best terms. So when it comes to the top three, it's not just the interest rate. That is a big deal for a lot of parents, obviously, but it's not the only thing. And also, in addition to that, when it comes to the paperwork itself, as far as competing College App versus NailNet versus Earnest versus Citizens Bank, so on and so forth, Discover, Sally Mae, all of them get together. Most of the applications, to be honest with you, are pretty easy to do. Most of the applications, even the hardest private loan applications I've ever seen, take maybe 15 minutes tops to do all of them. Both the student section for the borrowing and the parent section for the co-signing together typically takes 15, 20 minutes at most if you're reading every single word on every single page. So that being said, I understand that Discover and Citizens might have a 10-minute application versus, let's say, a College App versus a Sally Mae or College App or Earnest application of maybe 15 minutes. But from all the perspectives, the applications aren't that difficult. The more difficult applications, to be honest with you, the most difficult ones are the state applications for whatever reason, for the state loans. Those take 20, 25, 30 minutes in some cases because they don't have really good direction and it's not really user-friendly, these applications. But that being said, I don't see a problem with checking out Discover or Citizens or any of the other lenders. But when we first did the video, those are the three lenders based on terms, interest rates, and availability for most parents, no matter what the credit score was. Okay, hopefully that answered your question. But yeah, I would definitely check out Discover and Citizens if you wanted to look at those guys as well. Other than that, thank you guys for watching today's video. Once again, if you guys have any questions, please leave them down below. As you know, I answer all your questions here, or try to at least answer your questions every Friday to get the answers out there as quickly as I can for you guys in detailed format. And other than that, if you guys have any questions, any concerns, and need help, I do provide one-on-one consultations through Zoom for parents who need assistance. For that, on the screen is my cell phone number. Easiest way to reach me is text message. Second fastest way to reach me is through email to help out with either financial aid or admissions, whatever you need help with. Other than that, thank you for watching today's video. Once again, my name is Ed from Principia Prep.